Hi friends, I'm just out in Gary, the 5-speed car of mine, a little manual car, and I was just thinking that I should probably make a video, and maybe I should address some stuff to some people, okay? The topic today is going to be EMS and why I no longer work in that field at all. I don't disrespect people who work in it because there are some very genuine people in EMS, but there is also, just by the nature and the hero complex, there are some pretty terrible people in that job. So I became EMT back when I was 18 years old. That's been some time ago, but I had a real good time of it. But the issue was I was actually in school to be a firefighter, okay? Now, a part of this curriculum was to be on a volunteer fire department. Oop, wrong gear. And so that's what I tried to do. And you know, beforehand, the thing was, I gotten into a little dispute with my mother because, you know, I was 18 and I wanted to take it. I've been out doing something. It was actually my 18th birthday. My sister had taken me out for sushi, and my mother and my sister didn't really get along at this time because she disagreed with her boyfriend. I come home and I've had a good night and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a shower. My mother goes, no, you're not. And I'm like, what do you mean, no, I'm not? I pay the freaking bill. I'm getting me a shower. So she ends up calling the cops on me, and so that really kind of made me, it just pissed me off because it wasn't even so much about the shower as if it was about showing that she had more power than my sister. And you know, and because of that particular thing, I don't celebrate birthdays to this day. But anyway, get back on track. So that came out, and the cop that responded happened to be on this particular volunteer fire department. Now, one thing come to another. The story didn't come out that a dude was paying for his own bill and his mom was being a narcissist about it because it was his birthday and went out with his sister. It came out as I was a disgruntled, disrespectful youth who wanted to fight and yell, and that's really not the case at all. And so I get denied on the volunteer fire department, so I have to drop out of that class and that curriculum, and I have to look elsewhere. But in the meantime, what had happened was this story had gotten back to the other members of these departments, and being that these were a bunch of young guys who really stuck together, I mean, a lot of these were the children of firefighters, paramedics, and stuff, they immediately pointed the finger at me as trash, garbage, no good. And I'm not exaggerating this because they literally looked down upon me. And a funny story about that, one of them actually, when he was forced to leave the department and he found himself, me and him actually became really good friends because he discovered he was playing into the hero complex, and it was wrong. But yeah, it created a lot of problems, and it just ended up falling through. But I still have my EMT license. They couldn't take that from me. And even though I'd ultimately end up being a firefighter for a time. So I applied at a department that was alternative to my home district, and I worked there for quite some time. But I started to notice in EMS, just by the nature of, you know, people who work together, and it's a job you can just hire into. You don't have to have any, you know, no letters of recommendation type crap. That the people still stuck together in these cliques like really, really bad. And not so much as in, you know, like, oh, you know, like in a factory, like we got the most piece count and blah, 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 we have our lunch together. These people worked together, they lived together at the station, and they went out and they drank together and hung out together and everything. And I still have that image of being this piece of shit. And even though I tried to be nice, I really wanted to learn. It was never going to work out because I just did not fit the clique. I was certified, I was experienced at this point, but I didn't fit the clique. So that station, I worked there until that was done, and I transferred to another station. This one was to actually a city about 3 or 4 miles east. And I worked there, and they just run me into the ground. They just literally treated me like absolute shit because I wasn't in the clique. Part of that was dispatching. It was a self-dispatch company because that's in the days before hospitals retook over EMS as their own. And I remember something got messed up in the street named the dispatch, and this guy's like, I'm gonna punch him in the face, I'm gonna hit him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, I'm this younger guy, and it hurt me deep down because, I wanted so badly to be part of something that was bigger than myself. And to be thought of as a limb that needed to be amputated was hurtful, and it just drove me into the ground. Working 24-hour shifts, in seeing that other guys my own age who were actually born into this had a far exceeding better experience, and to add insult to injury, during this time I pulled out from a gas station and got T-boned and lost my privilege to drive. This was in my private vehicle, and it just fell through. EMS just freaking fell through, man. And even though I'm still licensed today, I could go apply at a station, but we'll get to that in a moment. So that deal with that other company fell through, and at that point I was like, you know what? If I have to fight tooth and nail for the essentials here, what am I doing here? I'm not wanted here. I can make the same paycheck working at McDonald's. It's time to move on. So I moved on, and I actually became a truck driver. Did some trucking, traveled the country, coast to coast. I was pretty happy about that. I don't want to say prideful, because pride goes before a fall, But yeah, I did some trucking, and then I discovered in trucking I kind of peaked out. I kind of got bored with it after a couple years. And I go back to EMS, and I hire into this, well, actually I didn't hire in. It's been many years now since I was 18, and I applied to this station, and I was actually a volunteer firefighter at this station too, which I loved that job. That was cool. And it kept getting kicked out, and they just kept hiring in these, the one guy was kind of a degenerate, and he's a nice guy, but he was just, a 40-year-old virgin type thing. Another kid had just turned 18, he got hired right in, whatever, which he was the son of, somebody. And it was my second day that I had finally gotten hired in, and I'd been out of EMS for a while, I'd been a trucker, I sat around, pushed a pedal and read maps and, delivered food and stuff. And what ended up happening to this just blows my mind, that somebody could be so freaking backwards and low. So I had finally figured out, but at this point, people had talked crap about me continuously because people never really took the time to know me. And, it's not that they intended to be bad. It's just when rumors start snowballing, it starts getting worse and worse and worse, depending on what it really is. It's kind of like when you hear a cop shot a black person. People automatically think racism, and I kind of do myself. And nobody stops to ask the important questions. What was that person doing? What was going on with that? And so that's how it became with me. It basically became that I was some fighter, some big screaming guy and stuff like that. And when in all reality, I'm a very private person. I will fight with you if, you pick a fight with me. But otherwise, I'm just not interested in fighting. So there's that on the table. But anyway, back to this. It was my second day at this now alternative station, after being out of EMS for a while, and we had a really bad call. I'm talking like somebody had been laying in their own excrement for weeks, and the family kept them alive probably to keep Social Security, and I'm kind of freaked, and I'm like, not like freaked, but nauseated, and I'm sitting back there doing my thing, and my trainer was a paramedic that I used to work with on the other big city station way back when. And she goes, John, you can sit up front. And I'm not thinking too much of it. I'm like, that's okay. That's cool. I don't want to be back here with this actively decaying, yet alive person. So we get to the hospital and stuff. She doesn't let me help. She don't let me help a patient, anything. And I kind of, it kind of tipped me off something was wrong. So we stop at a gas station to fill up, and I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, I'll go in with A and get a drink and stuff, and I can get an EMS discount, because right now I'm just in the orientation phases. She sits there until I force myself to go in. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, I'm in the gas station, I'm like, this is bad. I've had problems with her before. I know what is coming. Maybe I can just be quiet. She'll leave me alone. You know, because, you know, an EMT basic is, you know, you can't harm anybody, really. Considering your only drugs are, you know, oxygen, aspirin, nitro, and maybe a Buterol. Oh, and Benadryl now. And so whatever. I end up getting my drink, going back to the ambulance. She still never says anything to me. And we get back to the station, and I'm cleaning out the ambulance, and her hoodie was back there, her uniform hoodie. And I say, hey, lady, you want me to throw this out? I mean, this thing is covered in poo-poo. Like, bad. Like, you want me to just throw it out because it's nasty? She goes, what, you think I'm made of money? Put it in the washing machine. And alternatively, looking back, I was correct that she wanted to throw that away, but because I had said that I wanted to throw it away, it was wrong. See, that's a big difference there. So, I end up making, I think I made like a little microwave dinner or something, you know. I was kind of like nauseated, you know. I was hungry but nauseated, put it that way. I'm sitting there at the table, and she gets out of the shower. She got in the shower because, you know, poo-poo everywhere. And I'm sitting there reading the newspaper, collecting myself. And she gets out, she goes, hey, guy, you can go home. And I kind of look up, and I'm like, seriously? You're going to send me home my second day? She goes, yeah, because you didn't know where nothing was on that ambulance. And I'm like, I'm sitting there thinking, lady, it's my second day after being out of this for like 3 years now. There's no possible way that I could know where everything is on an ambulance because all ambulances are set up alternatively depending on what that department wants. So there I go. I do the walk of shame out of this station. And it really kind of threw me for a loop, really. I was kind of like, I was so pissed off because from years earlier, just assumptions and bad. Well, she ended up saying, oh, I was pregnant, blah, blah. No, I've been around a lot of pregnant people in my life. Pregnancy does not make you into some asshole who destroys careers. No, pregnancy it'll make you emotional, but it don't make you like that. I mean, like I would know I'm a man, but I'm making assumptions. But, you know, and it sucked. You know, it sucked to see young people walking right in, people who have nothing getting hired into this company and all that, and me, just because something I did, or just because I didn't fit the clique years ago, back when we all worked for something, it makes me a piece of shit. It makes me invaluable. You know, like, come on, it's EMT basic. You can't, there's really not too much that can go wrong, you know. I know that some will say, oh, it's a safety concern and people's lives and blah, 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 blah. Get out of here with that BS, okay? I know what I was doing. I had been experienced at it for a while with some pretty serious stuff. And, you know, I grew up in a medical family as well. But anyway, I ended up transferring again down to another station in the South. And lo and behold, that's where I met the infamous couple that drove the final nail in my career. And I tell you what, man, I am so happy I am out of EMS now. Goodness, because one of them was a veteran who had PTSD. The other one dated the veteran who had PTSD, and she was mentally ill. And I ended up getting caught in a love triangle here because I was having my own anxiety issues, and somebody showed me a little attention and blah, blah, blah. And yes, I slept with somebody in my own house. Okay, they came home with me. I was in my own house, all right? I have a right to do that as long as I'm not, you know, forcibly raping somebody. And what does this particular medic do? As soon as they get back to work and sees their boyfriend, feels guilty, points the finger at me and starts making rape accusations and stuff like that. Well, she didn't really make rape accusations. She just kind of got me forced out for sexual harassment. And I was kind of cool. I was just kind of like, you know, whatever happened, happened. I'm just here to do my shift, to go work on an alternative shift, you know, whatever. I don't really feel anything towards you. You don't feel anything towards me. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing, whatever. But that got back, and what ended up happening was, even though he beat her up and all this and that, I was let go. Well, I had to quit because he was gonna, he already basically brought guns to work over this, you know, and I was trying to be mature about it and everything, and I'm like, whatever, but that completely blacklisted me to where I will never be able to work EMS in this district again. You know, and the thing about it is, once again, I did a bad thing. Yeah, I should not have slept with somebody at work. But here's the thing, anybody who worked EMS or for any period of time, or anybody who was a trucker for any period of time like I was, knows it's as common as, you know, iced tea. It happens. You live with people, adults living together, male and female, stuff happens, you know. And I'm a Christian person. I'm repentful of this too. I just don't feel like that I should have to pay for it for the rest of my life in the fact that I won't ever be able to work EMS in this district again. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to work EMS again. I just want to be respected as a person who has some particular value. You know, and like the other guy I mentioned earlier who got out of EMS and stuff, once he really found himself and got out of the hero complex, he's a good friend. He's a nice guy. I actually would want to go see his concerts. But that's my little story about EMS. Love it or hate it. Some areas, you know, that's great. Some areas, it freaking sucks. So, your choice.